On today's show, what adjustments could the Suns make after their Game 3 loss? And the Dallas Mavericks, what's sustainable from that Game 3 awesome win? We'll talk about all that and more on today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks podcast.
The Dallas Mavericks are NBA champions. Bang! Bang! It's good!
And the Mavericks have won the game!
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager for the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks for making Locked On Mavs your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms where you can hear us. Let it ride. Let it ride. Second day in a row. Same
outfits.
Same outfits. We didn't sleep.
I haven't taken off.
Yeah, we didn't sleep. We're on all platforms, including YouTube, where you can subscribe to the show. And the best way to help grow the show is to comment anything below. Go to Locked On Suns and comment "Go Mavs." Do all that. Comment below here. And joining me, as always, my co-host, writer, and contributor at Mavs.com. The back-to-back boy, the one more thinking. What you got for me, Isaac Harris?
I want to give a shout out today to my lovely wife and all the beautiful mothers out there. Happy
to
Mother's
my
Day.
mother and your mother.
To all the mothers who listen to this pod.
You ever seen Brooklyn Nine-Nine? And your mother. And your mother. And your mother.
But yeah, my man, gosh, I can't thank my wife enough for just going to these home games, going to, of being the rock of our family. She's literally the best mom. I love my mom to death. Shout out to the moms on the pod. I also want to give a shout out to anybody. Mother's Day is also a lot of other feelings too, right? Like there's, it can bring a lot of painful feelings for a lot of different reasons. And I want to say that you're being thought about today too. And I just know it can be a lonely day for a lot of people out there. So shout out to you guys thinking about you, and to the mothers listening, happy Mother's Day to you.
And I'll bring us back. Shout out to Luka Doncic's mom too, and Jalen Brunson's mom, and Boban's mom, and Dorian's mom. Dorian's mom that was still working a job this past year. She's still working working at churches. Shout out to all the Mavs moms out there. Shout out to Mavs man's mom. I don't know who Mavs man's mom. All right, we're letting it ride on Mother's Day. Thanks so much for hanging out with us, Locked On Mavs. Mavs get a Game 3 win. Big.
Let's go.
Big win. Every win against the Suns is big because the Suns are the best team in the NBA. So celebrate that win. Continue to. Mavs win up.
It's the first win against the Suns with a healthy Devin Booker, right? Like the Pelicans beat them twice, but Booker didn't play in those games. So
Right.
So it's in the two games that the Pelicans won. So it's the first time the Suns have really gotten beat this postseason, with a healthy team.
That is a great point. So big win for the Mavs at home. The home team has still not lost a game in this series yet. So some people would say the series hasn't even started yet. But what do we take from Game 3? What are things in Game 3 that you think, okay, that can translate to Game 4? What things can the Mavs take with them?
Oh gosh. Well, I think
we talked about this.
I didn't know you were gonna go that route right now. Well, I think they have to keep on attacking. Like
you can do something different. You can do something different if you want.
Well, okay. I thought we were going to keep talking about the game and not talk about what they were going to continue.
Okay, wait. What are the things from Game 3? All right, let's reset. Ready?
Rewind.
Let's reset. Ready? Mavs get a big win. Game 3. Huge win for them. We talked a lot about Luka. We talked about Brunson's big game. We talked about the 3-and-D guys. What else from Game 3 really stood out to you? There's something that was massive for the Mavs.
See, that's much better. So I want to go back.
Professional podcasters, you and me.
I want to talk about Reggie Bullock. So from the opening tip, this was one of the adjustments. There's so many like tiny little adjustments in this game and rotation stuff, whatever. But one of the smaller things is Reggie Bullock started picking up Chris Paul, his guy. Like they're both North Carolina guys. They're buds. This is his guy, but he's got to have that. Alvarado got in Chris Paul's head a little bit, right? In that first series, he was annoying. He was pest to him. He picked him up full court like this.
The sneaking behind,
all the sneaking behind stuff. So Reggie started that this game, and it's like, all right, opening tip. And this is what we talked about, the kind of like the rope-a-dope stuff, the box. This is the equivalent of the boxer who does the jabs in the middle. And you're like, why are you even doing jabs right now? Why is the UFC fighter just getting the kicks in on the thigh? And you're like, well, that's not doing anything. It's like, no, it's wearing them down.
Yep.
I thought that was a great move by Coach Kidd. Great move by Reggie Bullock. Halftime happens. We all see the tweet. He's questionable, rib injury. And it's like, bro, we can't lose.
I'm not a doctor, so I don't know.
I watched this guy come out of the tunnel. We're watching him, warming up. He's literally, he'd take a shot. He's like holding his side, and he's rubbing it. St. Jean's coming over, talking to him. They're going over, and it's him, St. Jean, Kid at halftime around the clipboard. They're talking. He's rubbing his side. He's like going to, and so then he comes out. He starts the second half. He goes over and takes the ball. And he's literally still rubbing his side. I'm like, dang, bro, like he's going to barely be able to play. He plays in 21 of the 24 second half minutes. He was a +10. He hits 3 threes in the second half. He defends Chris Paul. He hits arguably the biggest shot of the game, the dagger shot.
The dagger 3
there in the fourth. I mean, that's a fighter, man. Like, it's playoffs, and like rib injury, like this. I mean, I don't know obviously how hard it was, how bad the injury was, but sometimes you hear different people talk about that saying, dude, every breath I take, I can feel it type of thing. And this dude just goes out there and fights. Only got 3 minutes of rest in the second half. Just so much respect for that guy.
And he takes the technical free throw in the second half, which I thought was kind of a good sign. Like, okay, if he was hurting that bad, then I don't know if they would have made him take the technical free throw, right? Because you'd think that ribs and shooting, like that would all be connected, but man, him and Dorian, like they just set the tone for this Mavericks team. Their identity is so wrapped up in those two guys that I'm so glad they have Bullock signed for a little while, that they got Dorian's extension done, because this Mavericks team is just built around those two guys. Their toughness, the way that they can play defense, the way that they're versatile on defense. They can guard guards and wings, and Dorian can guard a little bit bigger guys. Bullock did a pretty good job against Ayton. He had to rotate a lot against Ayton too, and there's some times he stripped him and was able to, just get Ayton to take tougher shots around the rim too, and not foul. And neither of those guys had a lot of fouls in this game. Bullock had 2, and they were both early, right? I think Bullock's fouls were both really early, and the Dorian only had 1.
I literally almost texted you this in the first quarter and said, who would have thought that the Mavericks would look better if they weren't in foul trouble? Because it's like game 1 happens. What happens? Jalen Brunson, 2 quick fouls. Trouble. Then he gets the 3rd foul. And it's like, well, crap, we don't even see him the rest of the half. What happens in game 2? Well, then Dorian gets in foul trouble. Well, that was the card that they wanted to play, was that small ball. And it's like, we're like, all right, we're going to see more of the small ball stuff. They couldn't even play it really because Dorian was in foul trouble in game 2. So now, bam, a game happens, a game that didn't have Tony Brothers or Tyler Ford or any of those refs. Coincidence that, those guys were not reffing tonight in the Mavs one? Don't know.
I tweeted during the game. It's so much nicer when I don't know what the referees' names are, right? Like, Mott was one of the refs. Like, it doesn't matter. I didn't know them.
But they didn't get in foul trouble early on, so they could run their normal rotations, right? Like Dorian got to play and JB got to play, and like all of that happened. We obviously got the foul trouble with Luka, and some of those was just stupid. And that came to a moment there that obviously they won. It's not a big deal now, but when his 5th foul happens, it was like, all right, are you going to challenge it or not?
Because he's in the paint. The Mavs are inbounding the ball, right? Or was it the Suns inbound? The Suns were inbounding the ball. Yes, the Suns were inbounding the ball, and like Jay Crowder just kind of runs towards him, and so they're like Luka's chest to Jay Crowder's left shoulder, and then Jay Crowder kind of puts his arm out a little bit, and then Luka kind of flopped backwards because Jay Crowder was coming at him, and it could have been a foul on Jay Crowder, but instead they called a foul on Luka. It should have just been a no call because there's just not enough contact either way on it. But Luka flailed a little bit. They ended up calling the foul on Luka, and that was his 5th foul. And so then Luka goes back to the to the bench. He has the money signs in the air. He was doing that all during the game. We didn't talk about that yesterday, but he has the money signs he's doing in the air, like the Conor McGregor like money thing, or the Johnny Manziel money thing. But he was doing it to signal the refs. But he and Greg St. Jean, who is he's the guy that's in charge of replays for the Mavericks. He like sits in the second row of the bench. He's got the he's got the iPad, and he's the one that kind of basically decides if they're going to call for a challenge or not. And he and Greg St. Jean just start going at it, like just going back and forth. Greg St. Jean in the second row, he's like back here, like telling Luka why he couldn't call it. Luka is like getting. Then
St. Jean stands up.
Yeah,
and him and Luka, like the game's still like happening, and Luka's standing up, St. Jean's standing up. They're going back and forth. St. Jean's talking to the guy next to him, and which I don't know if St. Jean is the actual like iPad. What shit?
They go to him a lot though, and Kid looks at him a lot when they want to decide a challenge. So I'm not sure if he's holding the iPad or not.
Could be the guy next to him.
He's a guy that matters a lot when the Mavericks want to go to challenges.
Did I shoot Mike Shed a text during this game? Maybe.
Yeah,
maybe during that
Shedder
moment.
Is up.
Shed, friend of the pod, that a lot of you guys love when Shed's on. This was his thing, with Rick. He's talked about on this pod, like what's the process of challenging a play and all of that. And he's graciously, went through that process with us on this pod, and he's great. And so they elect not to challenge that.
They don't challenge.
And I was afraid that could have been like, if they lost this game, that was gonna, Luka was getting asked about.
Or if he fouls out at one point and then they lose after that, that was going to be massive. And even so, the game was still going on when Luka and St. Jean were going back and forth at it. And then they call a timeout, or there's a timeout called. And then Greg St. Jean comes to the front of the bench, and him and Luka were still talking, like way less animated and less angry, I guess overall. But
which isn't a big deal. Like I don't want people to hear that and say, "Oh, St. Jean," but no, that's good. I like interactions like that, coaches, and I think the coaches welcome it. They know Luka's passion. Like there's nothing,
And it got to a point where St. Jean was like, like leans over while Luka is sitting down, and they're talking back and forth, and Luka eventually just nods his head, like he understands what they could have done or why they didn't challenge. I still don't know why they didn't challenge. I wish Greg St. Jean would explain to me why they didn't make that challenge.
I mean, they just wanted to hold the challenge, I guess. Like, there's 8 minutes to go in the game at that point, and you're holding your challenge for if there's something that happens, towards the end of the game in the fourth and all of that.
Yeah.
It was just, if there's a time to challenge it, it's Luka's fifth foul, right? Like,
right.
No, but anyway, they didn't, and it worked out.
Or they were going to save it for his sixth foul. Like, hey, we got to save this if you get your sixth foul. Which, hey, that
yeah.
Either way, but yeah,
I don't think they saved it for a timeout, because literally it was like a minute or so later. They just burn a timeout because the Suns went on like a 5-0 run. Like, well, we could have just had this. But
all right, coming up, what are some adjustments or some things that the Mavericks could can keep from this game? What are some things that we think that the Mavericks can sustain from Game 3? We'll talk about that and more coming up. But before we do, let me tell you about Built Bar. It's a protein bar, tastes like a candy bar. They're delicious. We love them. Go eat them. Order the variety box. You get the variety box and you can check out all the different flavors. Mint brownie, always solid. That was our favorite before they started making all these new flavors. Double chocolate is solid. Peanut butter brownie is solid. The cherry barcia and the raspberry, they sneak up on you. They're good.
Those are good. I like those.
Little fruit flavor, still the good Built Bar that you always get. 130 calories, 17 grams of protein, only 4 grams of sugar. That's insane for a bar like this. Cookies and cream, great as well. Go check out everything they have to offer at Built.com and use that promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off your entire order at Built.com. All right, Isaac Harris. We've been talking about Mavericks Game 3, huge win for the Mavs. Some things that the Mavericks can take in this game. Number one, I think, the defensive intensity. And then the other changes they made was the intentionality to get Brunson involved in the game early. Those were both so huge, but this defense for the Mavericks has always been predicated since the Mavericks kind of changed up their defense a little bit after the Porzingis trade and decided to really go all in on this, switching kind of defense. It's always been predicated on effort. It's always been predicated on the ability to communicate. It's always been predicated on everybody being interconnected, everybody knowing where the other person's going to go, knowing which person comes over and helps, knowing which person comes and digs real quick or doubles real quick or traps real quick. And they trapped Chris Paul and Devin Booker a lot more in this game than they did in other games. They just like, we got to go for it. We got to get the ball out of those guys' hands, even if it's maybe an open shot from Jay Crowder. They're like, we're fine with that. We're fine with Jay Crowder taking
If
12
Jay Crowder
shots.
leads their team in scoring,
That's a win. Huge win for the Mavericks. Huge win for the Mavericks if Jay Crowder's leading them in scoring. And he had a great game. 19 points, 7 boards, 5 assists, 2 steals, hit 5 threes.
5 threes.
He had the 1 3 that he hit when he did it's almost like the too small, but he was really just saying calm down to like the Suns bench. And there's 3 scouts sitting next to me, and they all started dying laughing as soon as he did that motion, because he's like, don't worry, guys. I'm Jay Crowder.
Like,
I got this. I got this. Everybody calm down. But that's a win for the Mavs. And so their defense, the effort, and then just the extra things they did against Booker and Paul. Booker and Chris Paul combined for 22 shots. Combined.
No.
That's not a lot.
Yeah, Chris Paul only attempted 9 shots in this game. You know,
happy birthday, CP.
Belated.
It's the rotations, you know, for Dallas, especially in the fourth, of, you know, we mentioned on yesterday's pod, but I wanted to see how much they attacked Luka in the fourth quarter again.
Yeah.
And this, you know, Dallas made different adjustments to preserve some energy for Luka in the fourth, but also
part of that was his foul trouble, by the way. He got to sit out a little bit.
I was going to do the meme of can't target him on defense if he's not out there, but something that Dallas was, you know, you almost just have to pick your poison, right? Is Dallas just said, hey, instead of y'all just bring it, which Phoenix did, they didn't do as much as I thought, but they still, you go back and watch some of these fourth quarter possessions. They're just, you know, looking for Luka's man and saying, all right, come up.
Yep,
Cam Johnson,
right.
Whoever it is, come up, said Mikal Bridges, come up and set the pick. But what Dallas was doing was saying, hey, we're just going to trap you off of it. And Luka was just stepping up. Instead of switching off and let Luka just take Chris Paul, they were just trapping Chris Paul. Well, then Chris Paul will have to swing it to an open guy. And the Suns
around 2 guys that are trapping him too, which made all of their passes off. How many tipped balls did the Mavericks have in this game? That script totally flipped, where in games 1 and 2, the Suns were tipping all these passes, and passes were going off of feet and stuff like that. In game 3, it was a lot more of the Mavericks tipping stuff.
Yeah. So the Suns would either miss shots. Like you look at the fourth quarter tonight, when, you know, I was really watching that tonight. You know, they were 3 of 8 from 3. They shot 50%. Either way, you're either going to get an open shot.
Just wasn't enough, though. They had missed enough shots early.
But what if Dallas has said, you know, this is what's the conversations happening in the huddle is, hey, if we're going to trap and we're not going to leave Luka on an island there, we're going to trap coming off of that. What do you got to do better? You got to rotate better. Yep. And that's where the effort comes in. And I thought Dallas did a much better job tonight of rotating whenever they're bringing that trap, you know, with Luka there in the fourth. They got to keep that up. That's their only answer on defense in the fourth, really. They
have to play defense almost the exact same way, and effort and, and ability, because they forced the Suns into some of the shots that the Suns want, and the Suns still shot decently well. I mean, 46% from 3, and they hit 13 of their 15 free throws. 45% from the field is not bad. It's like bad considering they shot 60% in the first 2 games, but that's not even a bad percentage. The Mavs forced the Suns into shots that they wanted to, and that was the first time shooting under 50% this playoffs. They averaged, you know, we've said the stat a ton, but they averaged 48% from the field in the regular season, number 1 team in the league in field goal percentage. So shooting 44-45% is below their average even in the regular season. So I see this as an absolute win, like the Hulk meme. You sent time,
Doctor Strange.
You turned him into a baby, right? No, not yet. It's still too spoilery.
That's true. We've both seen it. We have thoughts. Actually, at the end of this pod, I need a 2K ruling for people.
NBA 2K?
I have a 2K situation that I need our commenters to give me a ruling on.
We'll do it at the end.
Don't let me forget that. The
other thing that the Mavs adjusted and changed, I think that has to happen, is Jalen Brunson being active and aggressive early.
Yeah.
On yesterday's pod, I said whether it was by intention or by whether it was assigned or intentionally, they made sure that Jalen Brunson was getting shots early. It's 7 shots in the first quarter, and you could just tell that they were with Luka on the floor. They were like, you got to get going, and Luka just can't be driving all the time. He's not in good enough shape to be doing the load that he has on offense, and then also being attacked on defense the way that he was. That was just not a recipe for success where he is in his career right now. And so they had Jalen Brunson. He took 21 shots in game 3. That was huge. He didn't even make most of his threes, and I thought most of his threes were wide open. He was only 1 of 5. That's one thing that I think the Mavs can take from this game and say, hey, if we play defense the same way and we hit an ungodly amount of threes that we've proven that we can hit in the playoffs, they only were 13 of 39 from 3. That's 33%. That's like bad for the Mavericks. But if that's something that they can take and say, hey, we have a step forward that we can do in case some of the other things that went well for us in this game don't go well for us in game 4 like they did in the first 2 games. That's one area of, okay, we got some hope. Didn't hit a lot of our threes. And then also only got 13 free throws. That's something that will change because of how aggressive Luka and Brunson were. They'll probably get more free throws in the next game.
So Brunson had 26 points tonight after 3 quarters. And I think it was around like halfway through the 3rd quarter, he scored his 23rd and 24th point. At that point, he had scored more in 2.5 quarters than he did in the first 2 games combined. He had 22 points combined over the first 2 games.
Well,
he had 26 after 3 quarters tonight. That's huge.
And then the stat you shared yesterday from Kevin O'Connor at Second Spectrum was he drove to the basket 26 times in game 3. He only did it 23 times in games 1 and 2 combined.
Yeah. I mean, it's just he has to be aggressive. He has to drive. Even when you're shaking your head saying, no, like he's still got to drive. He's got to do it.
They need it.
Especially there's a little bit of a little battle going on between him and Booker right now.
For sure.
It's
guarding each other.
That game 1, Booker said something in his face, got the taunting tech. It's getting chippy now. So this is, I was looking at the Devin Booker quote, post game, which I actually like this quote from Booker. He said, "It wasn't like us. You can credit them. They came out, played hard, played desperate, but that's that last line of that quote. We got a series." And it's like, it's chippy, right? Like there's a couple techs in this game, Chris Paul, Monty Williams had to be like held back one time, which is not like Monty.
That's wild. There was calls in this game that went in the Mavs' favor that were egregious. They were just like, there was that one where Booker was getting guarded by like Dwight Powell, and Dwight Powell deflected the ball, and it was obviously out on Dwight Powell, and the Suns went nuts after that call. I think that's what was that when Chris Paul got a technical. Somebody got a technical. Bridges got the technical when Luka barreled into him, and they just weren't calling any body fouls, and so they're like, "Well, we can't call the offensive foul if we're not going to call the defensive body foul either." But
Luka and Jay talked all night.
Mark Stein tweeted out the most heated game 3 on all sides I've seen in a long time. Everyone is seething out here, and Mark Stein is like on the floor. He's like sitting there. He can hear all the stuff in the huddles and all that. And he's been to a lot of games and been to a lot of playoff games. So it's wild that he said that was the most heated game 3 he's seen in a long time.
Well, you got a lot of talkers though out there. I mean, Luka talks crap all the time.
Oh, yeah.
And that's where you have to accept it with Luka, that Luka also, Luka makes a 3. There's never a time that Luka makes a 3 and then he just goes down the floor normal. Like he's always making gestures, having fun, entertaining. So if I'm on the other team, I'm obviously going to like try to talk smack to him, be like, all right, bro. So then you factor in Jay Crowder, you factor in Devin Booker, you factor in Chris Paul. Like, these all those Jay 3 Crowder guys are talking too. Luka talks his stuff. You look at the Mavs side, a lot of their talkers are on the bench. So you have Theo and Tim and those guys
getting the Mavs fined.
Yeah. And I mean, Cuban,
Olive Cuban.
Olive Cuban, Macy's, I think, is having a belt sale right now. But
suspenders. Maybe may I suggest suspenders as well?
But no, let's put it over under on Tex in game 4.
Oh,
3.5.
3.5.
Over under. I'll say over.
It depends on what crew. It's wild. Harrell Bob tweeted this out. Isn't it wild that you can't bet on the game until you know who the referee crew is? Like,
that's funny.
Very true. I'm gonna go over because what if it's Scott Foster?
Oh, that's what the league needs, right?
Happy birthday, CP.
Give us Scott for game 4 to help us try to even this series up.
You want to know another underrated thing that I don't think anyone will mention about game 3? 88 possessions each. This was a Mavs paced game. The Mavs paced this game out. Like this was normally like 100 possessions in a game, and the Suns average like 100. Like their pace is normally at 100, and this was a way slower game. This was a Mavs paced game. They put their stamp on it.
Mavs shot 90 shots in this game, which feels accurate because it felt like they rushed so much. I'm like, are we trying to be the 7 seconds or less? Like not like pace as far as like run up and down the floor, but it felt like they took so many shots early in the shot clock, so many rush threes. It felt like, hey, just get your feet set. They didn't attempt 43s, they attempted 39, but only 33%, from three for them. They still haven't had like a game. Like I'm waiting for a 3-point barrage game.
That's what I'm saying. That's a thing they could take with them.
So okay. Also, real quick, defensive thing that the Suns did in the fourth. That I think this is what they're going to lean into, and it's honestly what we thought would happen going into the series, and they didn't do it. But then they started doing it in the fourth quarter, and now I think we're going to see more of it with Mikal Bridges on Brunson and Jay Crowder on Luka. So coming up next, let's talk a little bit more about that. Or my timer's all off right now, so I'm
we'll talk about that and more coming up. All right, Isaac Harris. I was not going to do a second break. Isaac made us do a second break.
I was like, there's not even an ad.
Go ahead.
God bless.
What's the thing they did in the fourth quarter?
Well, it's just they decided to put Mikal on Brunson, and they put Jay Crowder on Luka. And this is, our series preview stuff. We're like, hey, I think Mikal's going to guard Brunson. They have obviously elected not to do that, but then they went to that in the fourth because Brunson had such a good game.
Because Luka was just running through Bridges at certain points in this game. Yeah,
and what that tells me is they really, really do want Luka to just get his. And like, hey, it's much more complicated than what we laid it out, but it's easier to look at in the sense of teams, how they, game plan against Luka. Do you want Luka to cook and take out the other guys, or do you want to try to let the other guys cook and try to take out Luka? It's much more complicated than that. I get it, but it felt like that's where they're leaning, is like, hey, Luka, you can get your stuff. We're going to try to take out Brunson and the other guys. And now, they kind of switched that and put Mikal on Brunson because dang, Brunson started torching. So I think they're going to do that early and often to try to limit Brunson. Shocking here. They watched the same game we did, saying, all right, we can't let Brunson attack and get his stuff. We got to make Luka do everything.
Are we done hoping for the Dinwiddie game? 3 games in?
I'm just not thinking about it as much.
He only played 24 minutes. Didn't play a lot in game 2.
There was moments there in the fourth that, they went with Frank over him. I thought that was telling.
It's true.
For something, but I think he's kind of in his head a little bit. I wish he would be a little bit more aggressive. I wish him and JB would like play chess or something together today, and just be like, hey, can we both
shoots and ladders? I don't know, something easier maybe.
Hey, can we both just agree to be aggressive? Because it's like he gets a mismatch and then he starts backing up, and he'll do between the legs, he'll dribble behind his back and just kind of like trying to size it up. And then he'll try to make a move, like be like quicker in that and just go to the basket type thing. I just want him to be way more aggressive. And it feels like he's like lost a little confidence right now.
It does seem like that. So maybe it's they try to take away Luka and Brunson, and finally it's Dinwiddie's game in game 4. But the Suns will bounce back, right? Like this is not the Suns team. They played a little bit lackadaisical, I thought, at times. The rotations were weird by Monty Williams. He just like kept them normal. The Suns finally had to play a little bit more. Booker played 40 minutes. Chris Paul played like 37 minutes, but they played weird lineups where it was like Shamet and Chris Paul and Payne all together. They played those bench guys a lot. Brunson was cooking the bench guys too. Whenever those 2 other guards are out there, Brunson should be cooking those guys, and he finally was in game 3. But that'll change in game 2. The Suns will change that. And so,
where was DeAndre Ayton in this game?
Ayton was
after game 1. What was our a majority of our comments is like, we have no shot. DeAndre Ayton's going to feast this whole series. And it's like we just beat him in game 3, and like I honestly don't remember a ton of like what DeAndre Ayton did in this game.
Well, they kept him. My key in the crossover I talked about is keep him 18 feet from the basket if he's going to get the ball, right? Don't let him get inside. They had somebody on him pretty much at all times. They also tried to use him to space a little bit, which was kind of strange, but all of his stuff was contested or right around the rim. And he didn't, he couldn't get a ton of stuff off, which was good for the Mavs. But that'll probably change in game 4. Like the Suns will come back with a vengeance. Was this the Mavs punch that they have left? Or do you think the Mavs figured something out? Because they put a lot of effort into game 3.
For sure. Well, I think they definitely figure some things out. As far as like it's not like they rolled out the same game plan and then it just magically worked. They changed some things up. They tinker with some rotation stuff. They tinker with some defensive stuff. They tinkered with how to preserve some Luka energy. They tinkered with the offensive, energy stuff with Brunson, those guys attacking, getting into the paint more. Like they actually changed some things and made some adjustments. So now it's the adjustments on the adjustments. So now it's Phoenix's turn to say, all right, well, how are we going to adjust? And that this is the fun of the playoffs. I love this part of the playoffs is adjustments and lineups and who plays and all this. And I love this part. So it should be a very, very entertaining game 4.
Should be an incredible game 4. Happy Mother's Day to everybody. We appreciate you guys.
I got my ruling.
And you got to say it.
All right. One more thing. Since it's a weekend pod, I get to throw it out now. So,
oh yeah, your 2K thing. Yeah.
So I need a 2K ruling. I need y'all to be honest with me and tell me if I was doing something that should be frowned upon.
Not kosher.
Because my friend said in the middle of, so we're in a fantasy league on 2K, and this is gonna be, y'all can turn the pod off if you don't care, or it's gonna sound like fantasy footballish. And so we're in a fantasy league. And I have the best defense in the league. He has the best offense. And we just met in the finals. Okay. So to give you a sense of my team, remember, it's a fantasy team. It's a fantasy draft, and you make all these trades. I have Ben Simmons. I have Klay Thompson. I have like OG Anunoby. I have Miles Turner. I have Paul George. Okay. So I'm really defensive heavy. So for him, he has Darius Garland. And that's like his main source of offense. So he beats me in game 1. It's a 3-game series. I'm getting to it. I'm setting the stage here.
I was gonna say I've totally zoned you out. So
I'll ask you this the main question for you. Okay. So he beats me in game 1, pretty single-handed. And for me, I'm like, all right, I got to make adjustments in 2K here. Like I got to make a big adjustment. So what I do, I say, I got Ben Simmons as my point guard. I lean so much in the defense. He has Darius Garland. So what do?
Simmons is playing?
Haha. In 2K, yes. I go out and I run, I swear, like every other play, I run Ben Simmons post up on Darius Garland, and I'm just getting dunk after dunk. Is that fair? Because then I end up winning the finals. I end up beating him in the series because there was literally no answer for him. He's like, I don't know what to do at this point because I was just running post ups with Ben Simmons because he's a 6'11" point guard, getting dunks. And then the times he would bring doubles, I would just hit open threes. And it honestly, it worked so effectively. It was unfair. And in the last game in which I won the title, he's like, bro, this is like OP. Like there's nothing I can say, but there's nothing I can do. It's like unfair that you're doing this. So am I in the wrong? Like, am I in the wrong for just going to the post every possession in a closeout game on 2K? I just need to know that.
I mean, like it's a play in the game, right? It's not like you were running some.
I even told him, I was like, start hacking me. Like Ben Simmons sucks at free throws, and he did it a few times, and I would hit like 50% of my free throws with him. But anyway, it just turned into a discussion. He's like one of my good friends back home, and I'm like, bro, I don't really have another answer. Like this is my adjustment to you. And anyway, so let me know in the comments, in YouTube comments, was I in the wrong for doing something that's OP like that? And yeah, and it's obviously kind of boring too. In 2K, just run like post ups and just back your dude down and get a dunk. But or whose side are you on? Mine or my friend?
Yeah, I don't think you did anything wrong if you're just running a play.
All right, thank you. I think if you can talk about Avatar on this podcast, then I can talk about 2K.
Well, yours is. I haven't talked about Avatar in a long time, but yours is at least on sport.
Can we talk about Doctor Strange at all, or no?
No, it's too early. Too early.
Dang. All right. We'll talk about Professor X later. That was in the teaser trailer.
Getting close. It's getting close to a spoiler.
It was in the teaser trailer.
There you go. We'll have a post game for you guys. Thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace out.
Boom.